a little bit of impact on the political scene here in the country. Already we started seeing that and what is happening in Kisumu with President William Ruto's visit there yesterday, and also what is happening in the Mount Kenya region and how this is going to shape the politics of 2027. And of course, having this conversation here, I do have Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is a governance expert, Honorable Titus Lote, MP Kachiliba, and of course, Honorable Samuel Pogisho, who is also a former minister, served in the National Assembly from, I believe, all the way to 2017, all right? I want us to finish on the, pardon? 2022, sorry, I'm sorry about that. I want us to continue with this conversation and just finish up on, the journey to AUC. If at all we don't get it right, if at all we don't get it right, because we've tried this before, what will we have done wrong? Let me start with you, Honorable Titus.
I wouldn't say that there is something wrong that we will have done, because this position does not just depend on our capacity to lobby. Mm-hmm. It also depends on the forces that are global forces, our colonial powers, and also our religious belief. Mm-hmm. For example, if you look at this person who is contending with Raila from Djibouti, this person is a Muslim, mm-hmm. and he also comes from a Francophone country. These are forces that we cannot control. We cannot un-Muslim people. Mm-hmm. Neither can we ask them not to follow their colonial powers. Okay. So basically what we're trying to do is to swim against the tide, mm-hmm. to see if we can be able to break the already historical decisions that have been made based on those factors. If we can be able to break it, it's okay. If we cannot, mm-hmm. then we should not blame ourselves. We just say, well, we've given our best, let us try another time.
All right.
So we will not have failed. Okay. We will have tried.
How did we not get it the first time, Dr. Hassan, when you actually presented Amina Mohammed for this particular position?
I think the same game has played, as Mheshimiwa has put it. Chad, as Mheshimiwa also mentioned, our senior here mentioned, Chad is a small country. And it's not economically very much stable or viable like Kenya. Mm-hmm. But the issue is, I think vile wanasemanga kiherehere yetu tu ndio imefanya tukose. Okay. Most likely Kenyans, they want to show African nations that they are more advanced, mm-hmm. in terms of technology, mm-hmm. in terms of diplomacy, in terms of democracy. And countries that feel that you are more advanced than mm-hmm. them mm-hmm. will also feel threatened. Even, for example, we are not able to do any business in Tanzania, mm-hmm. simply because Kenyans are not accepted. They are assumed to be very aggressive. Mm-hmm. And when they come into a country, they may take over the whole economic status of that nation. Okay. And therefore, it's not that Kenyans
people look at you and they see a threat.
People look at us from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. The milestones of our democracy, where we are currently, our economic status, mm-hmm. and most of these African nations, mm-hmm. With the exception of few of them, South Africa, mm-hmm. Egypt, and some few others, none are comparable to when you measure them in terms of their GDP. Mm-hmm. They are not comparable to what we have in this country. And therefore, people look at things from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. What happens if this country, mm-hmm. which is already assuming that they are more superior to us, mm-hmm. and they will going to behave, if a leader comes from there, they're going to behave like a colonist. Okay. There are a lot of things that goes on.
So all those things might actually inform how these nations get to vote.
The other thing which made us actually lose this seat is the fact that we are never in touch with African nations, mm-hmm. when it comes to issues or affairs of our country, mm-hmm. as well as the region. Mm-hmm. We are always brushing shoulders with either the East or the West. Okay. And when you are in need now is when you are getting back to these nations. At that particular time, people have all the reason to say, is it the right time to have these people with us? Okay. What effect will they going to have if we give them as our leader, right. as a regional leader? So those are the things that plays a role, including what just Mheshimiwa has mentioned, issues of religious influence, mm-hmm. As well as issues of Franco mm-hmm. nations. Mm-hmm. by the way, Chad is an Islamic nation.
Okay.
And last time in the competition, the same thing played. So if anyone, if the diplomatic shuttle now that is moving around is excluded from the approach we made last time, we are likely to make a bit of gain. But again, is it Raila who is the right person to do the diplomatic shut? I think if our president would have done that, as
so fronting him is not enough.
Yes, actually, when you are the one who is bidding for a position, you are not the right person to go and beg for the position. Okay, somebody else you must as an African culture, someone must be, an elder must be going with you, or a leader for that matter, to go and say that this particular person of mine is of this quality, and we expect him to deliver this role. Kindly consider.
Do you believe if the president took, the front seat when it comes to front seat when it comes to campaigning for Raila Odinga, he will stand a better chance?
I think His Excellency His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, there is nothing he can't do. Okay. Everything is possible with him because he has proved that. Okay. When all government machineries was against him in 2022 election, he won the election in Kenya, which is more tougher than actually the AU bidding. Right. So if we will have fronted the president to go and campaign for him with his nice wisdom words and always talking on behalf of Africa whenever he has gone for all the international forums, including UN Assembly, Leaders Assembly, I think he will have had an upper chance. Okay. But I don't think if Honorable Raila is the one who is fronting for himself, I don't think if he will make much impact in terms of gaining votes from African nations.
Now, interesting you should mention that nice wisdom word. Some people will argue a different thing, but away from that. You see, as a country, we are celebrating 60 years of diplomacy. From what the argument of Dr. Hassan here, it's like as much as we want to celebrate, 6 years of diplomacy and front ourselves, as a very advanced, diplomatic nation, something like that, and also our democracy to some extent, because it seems like the nations that surround us and our neighbors and the people that we're supposed to actually, having these diplomatic relations with, do not trust us as much. I don't know. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, we thank you very much, because Kenya is the bigger economy around the East Africa region. We are the bigger brother. How we carry ourselves is very important. How we treat everybody around us is very, very important. If we sound to be very arrogant, or we look like we are very arrogant, we will be sneered at. And William Ruto's charm offensive, for example, is on trial here. He has tried to be a leader among equals. He's actually proposed himself to be the African representative. So it's his charm offensive, his skill in winning diplomatically is on trial here. If he loses this one, he loses his chance of becoming a leader among the African countries. Kenya has always stood out.
So it's also important for him.
It's also very important for him. And so whom he selects to represent him is also very important. I know that our CS for Foreign Affairs, who is also the Prime Cabinet Secretary, is also trying. But I can tell you, all you can do is try. If you do not carry yourself with the benefit of being almost a superpower in this region, how much have you done for these other countries? Who are you to them? How do you relate to them? It's very important. If you take Somalia, for example, if you don't treat Somalia well, they will say, I don't support you. Ethiopia. You come down south, all the way, he's now in Angola, for example, Mudavadi is in Angola, right? Or he went to Angola recently to try and get the vote from Angola. Angola is a Portuguese-speaking country. They are different from France, the French-speaking. So we have about, I think, 5 countries who are Portuguese-speaking. So you begin with one there, Angola, and then, Mozambique, and the others can follow. So we have a very difficult situation. If we fail, like we failed before, and we are very good at failing, we stand a chance of actually losing more things in the world political calculations. But let me come back to the issue of Raila personally. I think he's a good candidate. But as a candidate represent himself, it's very difficult. Unfortunately, if people want to let you lose, or if the people want to see you personally come and talk to them, they look at you and they say, goodness, you know, this is not what we expected of you. But if you allow somebody to speak for you, there's a good chance of saying, it's William Ruto, for example, speaking for us. So why can't the president of Kenya be the one doing the shuttle diplomacy? Why can't he go and speak for his candidate? Because we get judged by who is speaking for us, right? Who is speaking for you? Okay. That's the same thing that happened to Amina. Amina did not get very much support in terms of the president going out. So what you do is you put up people like Pogisho, Lotte, Madaktari here. Say go. But where do you begin? Who are you? You know, if you send me now, for example, to Djibouti, or no, not Djibouti, but if you send me now, say to Algeria, they want to know my CV, right? Yeah. Yeah, who are you? Whose voice do you come with? It's the African sense of things. Okay. So I do believe that we have a good chance of winning, but it's the intricacies of it is that we have a situation on our hands where geopolitical decisions that we make will affect how. Can you imagine, for example, the situation in Israel, for example, affects how whether we win or not. Okay. Our decisions whether to support Israel or support Palestine. Those decisions are not made here, but when we sound like we make those decisions, we lose. Who is voted in? Who becomes the president of America? That also affects our chances of winning. Okay. You know, who is in Britain? Who is in France? Imagine, those people are so far away from Africa, but they determine how we vote in Africa. Okay. They determine who becomes the chairman of AUC. All right.
I want us to transition and take a look at what's next for Kenya, especially on the political front and where we are headed, how the future looks like politically. Let me start with you, Herbert Titus. From what we've been able to see, we've had a deputy president, a deputy president that was elected impeached. We've had a new deputy president actually now on board and sworn in. He's actually, now running things in that particular office. We have a mountain that was united for the Kenya Kwanza government now seems to be somehow divided or, taking a different turn when it comes to matters politics. And you have a region that has been considered an opposition stronghold and one that might have never voted for the Kenya Kwanza government, somehow, now moving closer to President William Ruto, if the scenes that we've been able to experience in the past few days are anything to go by. When you look at this and the question is asked, what's next for Kenya? Where do you see the nation heading politically?
Well, one thing that we need to appreciate is that politics is very dynamic, extremely dynamic. And again, the other thing that we also need to know is our politics is based on tribes and communities. And people move from one coalition to another one. We will never have a single party ruling in this country. We will always have coalitions from when the time we promulgated this constitution. And we've seen this during Kibaki's time, we've seen this during Uhuru's time, we're also seeing it now during Ruto's time. And this coalition basically are made of parties that are basically having tribal bases, like ODM, which is coming now from the region which we talked about, the region that has never been in government. And then we had the Jubilee, which is controlled by Uhuru Kenyatta, which is more on the mountain. And then we have the UDA, which is basically the Kalenjin bit of it. Okay. And again, to appreciate that this country, I've looked at it, and it seems like the politics in this country are controlled by three main communities based on their demographic and numbers. That is the Kalenjin, the Kikuyus, and the Luos. So that should any of the two coalesce, and then basically they nearly form government. Okay. And so the geopolitical and environment of us now is basically also dictated by that. So that when the mountains started to be guzwad, they say Musiguze Murima. So when Murima was touched, and one of the judges that was supposed also to rule on that aspect was also called Murima. So people were saying Murima is trying to look at Ish to Murima. Okay. So when that was touched, I think politically what William Ruto Mheshimiwa has done is also trying to get other friends and getting friends from within so that it can also survive politically, so that this government can also perpetuate and go beyond this. It is a very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate, I'll say. And I kept thinking in the morning when I came here that for the smaller communities in this country, we will never, ever have a rule in this country. And I look at our potential, the smaller communities have always been able to perform in this country. I look at Mheshimiwa Pogisha here, for example. When he was minister for information, that is the time when we had a robust development of technology, the mobile phone and everything. We did not even have fraud. Now we've got fraud. You cannot even be able to save your money in a bank without thinking every morning whether the bank is still alive or not, because we've got a lot of issues that are coming. And yet, this kind of people, the likes of Pogisho, the likes of me, and the likes of Daktari here, unfortunately, might not be able to get to any leadership position based on the fact that we are coming from a demographically smaller communities, and yet we've got the potential to transform this country. And so politically, the same thing is happening now, that people coalesce around communities, around tribes, and those are the people that are taken into position in this country, so that their communities become appeased and that their communities now start to vote for the government. Okay. What is actually brought in the people from Nyanza is when the likes of Badi, the likes of my former leader of majority came into cabinet, you found the tune of Nyanza going completely for government. In fact, if you go to parliament right now, the people that are really fighting for this government now, it's not even the people from the Kalenjin nation. These are the people from Nyanza. They actually, you cannot point a finger at William Ruto before anybody from Nyanza point a finger at you.
That was not the case before.
That was not the case before. And that is the reason why I'm saying politically, it is going to be dynamic all through. And so we did not expect that Kalenjins and Kikuyus will forever be joined together. Okay. In any case, in 2007, Kalenjins and Luos joined hands together. That is the time when we had Raila and we had Ruto, when the post-election violence was coming in. That is, it was Kalenjin and the Luos. Okay. Now, it seems like we're going back there because the mountain has felt aggrieved. Okay. The mountain is feeling that William Ruto has abandoned them.
How dangerous is it if we go back to that, you know, what you're mentioning in terms of, because now we are drawing similarities to what happened in 2007, you know, where it was a Kalenjin, Kalenjin and Luos, and now, you know, we had Kikuyus on the other side, and maybe the Gema community and all that, and we are seeing to some extent driving to that particular direction. How dangerous is that for the country at this particular moment?
It is extremely dangerous, and that's what I said. I said, as long as our political bases are based on communities and tribes, we will still be as a country be on the red zone. And the reason why the smaller communities that have got potential to transform this country might not get the chance. In fact, all the smaller communities will always be a bystander. In Parliament, we've got what we call the IPPG, the parliamentary. We can also be able to get part of this. Combining many small things to be one big thing is difficult than combining one big thing that is already unified on the basis of their tribe. And so we will still be on the red as a country as long as our politics are based on tribes, as long as our politics are based on communities. So I will still ask every Kenyan, and I think the Gen Zs brought in something that was different, and people were happy somehow. They said the Gen Z have gone beyond tribes. And I think we need to go to that level so that we start ruling this government, this country, governing this country correctly. Okay. Because the more things change, the more they remain the same. All right. 2007 might be like 2027. Okay. And I don't know what this 7 is all about. But these 7s are bringing in coalitions.
But Dr. Hassan, there was an array of hope from what Titus is saying, that Gen Z did bring out something different when it comes to, you know, they were not coming together based on where they come from in terms of ethnicity. But you see, that went down. Right now, we are looking at communities coming, you know, saying, of course, we need to support our own and all that. So we seem to be going back to what we know how to do best, and that is to play tribal politics. So the future of this country politically doesn't seem to be shifting away from, you know, politics of, you know, tribal politics, despite the president, you know, coming out and speaking about it and saying we will not allow tribalism, or the politics of this and that. But as a nation, that has not clicked yet that we need to move from that particular direction.
I think the nature of our politics and governance in this country is very dynamic, in that we always find things which are not ideally formal. For example, let me give you an example of where Mheshimiwa sits. Members of parliament. We have leader of the minority, and we have leader of the majority, and they are both in government. And in the structure was that we have two opponent things: one, the government, and two, the opposition, to check on the government's agendas for the interest of the nation. If now both the checker and the executor, both of them do the same thing, who will going to check things for this nation? This is the dynamics that we are in. For example, as soon as some leaders of ODM party have been pulled out of parliament and given executive position, the game changed. And the president was received like a king in his own backyard. That has never happened before, because when we asked, and we asked several times in these media houses, the nation, that if you have picked ODM as part of the government, let them relinquish themselves from positions of checking and balancing of governance and leadership within the parliament. But what they said is that these were individuals who were picked, but the party was not picked. What is happening now on the ground at a particular Nyanza? Is the party still an opposition party? No, that is not the case. So I think, as you mentioned, the tribal politics is something that is ruining this nation. And that's why we are not going anywhere far. We never based our ideology or ideological based governance. Rather, we have tribal based governance. And that's why we talk about all the time, even when positions are being shared. Instead of basically talking about regional balance and of course marginalization and all other things that are mentioned as a requirement in the constitution, we always talk about this tribe comes from the majority, they must be given the majority. In the majority only rules when it comes to political process. But when it comes to executive and service provision, all Kenyans have an equal right to provide services to this nation. And that's why I say there is no need of having 22 members of parliament, members of cabinet, and all the 22 are shared among only 6 majority tribes. Instead of having the face of Kenya, you know, we have 47 tribes, 50 actually, 53 tribes in the nation. 22 of them, if each of them is given a position, we know we have already covered half of the face of Kenya. The other half is covered with giving them position of PSS. That way you are able to talk about and be proud of a nation that accommodates, that is accommodative, not by popularity, but by ideology,
Alright.
and by the fact that the constitution that we hold is upheld and respected.
Okay, I get that. I get that. And of course, I want to take a break, but when you come back, come to talk about more about this particular issue when it comes to the politics of the day and how that are going to form the future of the nation politically and also ethnically. And of course, we're going to be getting your sentiments, our Honorable Pugisho, when we come back from this particular break. Continue engaging us on our socials. At Amoy Brian, that is on X, at K24 TV, that is also on Facebook. We'll be sampling your feedback as we continue the program tonight. Not tonight, but this particular morning, I beg your pardon. All right, we take a break. We'll be back in a few.
Emotions, relationships.
Kumbe mama, ulikuwa unafikiria kuolewa tena? Yaani unijaleta kidogo, wewe ni mbaya.
Dilemmas and complexities of life.
Mwanamke hamhitaji mwanaume ili aweze kuwa na furaha.
Love.
Vedika, kiukweli mimi nakupenda sana wewe.
Betrayal.
Mimi nilikupa kila kitu ambacho wewe ulikuwa unakihitaji. Lakini leo umeamua kunidanganya na kuusaliti uaminifu wangu.
And secrets.
Tafadhali usimwambie Sahil kuhusu hili.
Get ready for an emotional roller coaster ride filled with drama.
Sahil!